Hey, what's up guys? I'm back. It's been a long time, but let's dive into our first video. So if you didn't know, throughout these past few months, I've been posting my essays on TikTok. I've had a few of these posts go viral, one of which being the topic of this video. The post was titled, "Why Luffy and Zoro's relationship with death is the key to their understanding of one another." I started One Piece May of this year, and currently, as of recording this video, I've just finished the Thriller Bark arc. And man, do I have a lot to say about the series. The sense of adventure of a vast world, the on the surface goofy but likable characters that each carry uniquely deep and profound messages and motivations that push them forward, and finally, the integration of all these characters towards one goal, the One Piece, where all the moving parts mean that something is always happening. But that's not what this video is about. I want to dive right into the meat of the discussion, as if you've clicked on this video, you're probably already familiar with the series. Zoro and Luffy, two personalities that are worlds apart. But is this actually the case? In this video, I'll present the case that they may be, at their core, more similar than you may suspect. Perhaps even two sides of the same coin. If you've watched One Piece, you'll know that the theme of dreams is the centerpiece that everything else is woven onto. The fabric of what it means to have a dream and the importance of them underlines every character, plotline, relationship, and objective. The difference between those who dare to dream and those who do not is clearly depicted in a way that demonstrates the stark contrast between the two camps. How they view the world, how they carry themselves, what they find important. If you look deeper, it becomes clear that this distinction is the foundation that everything else is built on. The mind that allows one to dream seems to inspire virtue and courage, or more precisely, strength. It seeks challenge, adversity, and adventure, whereas the small minds that scoff at said dreamers seem to try to feign strength through acts of weakness, ultimately seeking reputation, fame, and riches. And if you want to see how being a dreamer is a source of strength that elevates you above whatever obstacle you may encounter, you'd have to look no further than Zoro and Luffy, two of One Piece's biggest dreamers. The thing I find most fascinating about Luffy and Zoro's relationship is how they both process their own dream in the same way, and how this gives them an innate understanding of one another that transcends words. Both have ambition that's almost violent. Luffy wants to be king of the pirates, and Zoro wants to be the greatest swordsman in the world. And it's obvious that they'll settle for no less than their dream. But this is where things get interesting. Although their ambition is so unyielding, they have the same relationship with death that at first glance seems contradictory, but if further inspected, ties in perfectly to what we're exploring. Death is the ultimate end. It's the antithesis of your dream. Death closes the door on all things. It puts a final full stop on your potential. It's the finale where the person you are when you meet it is all you will ever become. It would make sense then that Luffy and Zoro should fear death more than anyone else. After all, their ambitions far exceed those of a normal person. Of course, we know this is clearly not the case. If I could summarize Zoro's essence into one of his quotes, it would be, "If I die here, then I'm only a man who could make it this far." And for Luffy, from episode 1, the way he thinks about his dream is made clear when he says, "I'm gonna be king of the pirates. It's not about whether I can or not. I'm gonna do it because I want to. I've decided to become the king of pirates, so if I die fighting for that, that's fine with me." It then becomes clear that they have a very similar relationship with the concept of death, which is very wise and mature, and as a result gives them the courage to face challenge, as well as the courage to rely on one another without interfering in each other's fights. When Luffy fights Crocodile, Zoro doesn't assist him. However, after the Straw Hats leave Luffy to face his fate, it's clear there's a lot of tension in the air. The spotlight is placed on Zoro, who's unusually nervy. This is out of character because Zoro is usually the rock that the crew can lean on when things get chaotic. However, it just highlights how uncertain and unpredictable the situation they were facing was. Even Zoro was worried for Luffy. However, he still remained true to his principles and put his trust in Luffy to survive. In the Jaya arc, when the Straw Hats find that Mont Blanc Cricket was attacked in his home and robbed of his artifacts, Zoro examines the scene. He notices Bellamy's mark on the wall and nudges Luffy. All he does is get Luffy's attention and point to the mark. After he allows him a second to process it, the next thing he says is, "Want help?" To which Luffy responds, "No, I can do it alone." As if he knows exactly what Luffy's thought process would be given the situation. It's clear here that their understanding transcends words. Luffy and Zoro never support one another based on fear. Their actions are not fueled by emotion. Yes, they feel things like worry for another, as we already saw, but they never allow this to interfere with their decision making. Zoro will leave Luffy with a challenge even if it seems insurmountable, and this is only because Zoro understands Luffy. They share the same priority of values. Their dreams reign above everything else. Achieving it means more to each one of them than even their own life does. Zoro knows how hot the fire of ambition burns in Luffy, and vice versa, because he carries that exact same fire within himself. In this way, their ambition brings out courage instead of fear. Zoro understands that Luffy fears not achieving his dream more than death itself, so he leaves him alone to face impossible scenarios because he understands that his dream is equally impossible. The same ideology pops up again here. If Luffy dies here, then he's only a man who could make it this far, and it's better to find that out now than to live and endure an entire life of uncertain hope. And the same goes for Zoro, who instead of playing backup, is always adamant on going instead where he is most needed, which is usually a situation of equal stakes with seemingly impossible odds of success that he must also overcome to prove that he's worthy of achieving his dream. As a result, their view of death is not as something to run from. Instead, to them, death is something that must be faced as a test to see if they're worthy of achieving their dream. Each time they face and overcome death, they're crossing one more obstacle that stands in the way between them and their dream. This is where I find the series so fascinating. Normal human instinct drives the belief that dreams lie in the opposite direction of death, that you get the gold by escaping death. But if the gold was in the direction of safety, wouldn't every person achieve great things? This concept is encapsulated by the age-old tale of the dragon and the gold. The gold lies behind the dragon. You can only get the gold you seek by facing the dragon. And the dragon, of course, represents many things, including fear and death. Oda has sown this understanding into these two characters. Facing death and besting it is a way to their dreams. Therefore, they do not fear it because they see it as a reflection of the truth, the mirror that will allow them to see themselves clearly. In this way, it becomes exciting rather than terrifying. You are about to find out who you truly are, and this could mean moving one step closer to touching the impossible. If they do die, it doesn't matter because through this lens, it means they weren't a person who was enough to achieve what they wanted. Their destiny would have bound them to only become an equal to the obstacle that defeated them. And since their destiny is ultimately not in their control, their death would be a regret-free one. It's a beautiful relationship with their dreams that consists of both surrender and struggle. They've already made peace with their death, which is why they can put their lives on the line so quickly and unhesitatingly, but are also prepared to, in that moment, give their best effort to defeat death when it comes to envelop them in its darkness. It's an interesting paradox, ultimate ambition, but also ultimate surrender, making peace with death, but also viciously wrestling with it every time it rears its ugly head, using it as a litmus test rather than an indicator of doom. And I think this is where the idea of quote-unquote enjoying the journey comes in. Ultimately, by existing in this paradox and embodying this philosophy, you realize that although you need something to aim at, the dream lies on the path you take to meet the goalpost. That is to say that you are successful the moment you take that first step in the direction you decided is important to you and hence have decided to pursue. Once you're on the path, you're already living the dream. This also serves to allow us to understand why both Luffy and Zoro seem so comfortable with the idea of death. They're already living their dream by living a life that is designed to continuously move them toward that dream. So again, if they die, they can do so without regrets. The final yes that is granted by destiny is not something in one's control, and therefore does not weigh on the mind of a person who truly tried their best. Therefore, dying on this path would almost be like their own martyrdom, and dying as a martyr of your dream is the next best thing to achieving it. After all, the same life was lived, the same values and principles were embodied and expressed. One journey just ended sooner than the other. I think this is where their mysterious and transcendent trust and understanding of one another comes from. Although they are two completely different personalities, they are fundamentally the same. The groundwork that underlines their philosophy is exactly the same. They carry the same fire in their belly and therefore don't need words to understand what the other person is thinking when an obstacle arises. That obstacle is processed in the same way. I believe that Oda tying this elusive underground framework into the captain and vice captain of the Straw Hats is beautiful symbolism for what it means to have a dream, and how the less apparent value system of two people is way more important than surface level personalities in dictating how well they can operate as a force when moving towards a vision of the future. Zoro and Luffy are completely different, but their essence is the same. Despite Luffy's unserious and goofy demeanor, Zoro understands that at the core of his spirit, Luffy is an untamable lion, a born leader who's destined for greatness. Zoro is no piece of cake himself, and would not have decided to follow him to the end if he didn't sense this within him. They are the spirit and tenacity of the Straw Hats, the gas pedal that drives the story forward. This dynamic is the one that struck me the hardest while watching the series. As all great writers do, it's been made so obvious and yet so elusive. It's so interesting. One thing the comments of this post made me realize is that as human beings, we can feel things better than we can grasp them and put them into words. We all understand it intuitively. Putting it into words is a bit more difficult. For me, trying to uncover the blueprint of their characterization felt like a jigsaw puzzle. Each new situation that unfolded and how the Straw Hats responded to it gave me a new nugget of information that was vital in completing the puzzle. As I've said, spanning all the way back to my earliest videos, the best writers have the trait of consistency through their works, and this consistency is a result of purpose, and purpose is a result of intention and understanding. In other words, the writers are trying to say something without saying it, and they use their characters to do their bidding. And when something is done with intention and purpose to carry some sort of message, only then can you cross-examine it to uncover mysteries. It becomes something that's real, that exists in the world, and as a result, transcends fiction. I think all of this is why Jaya is up there as my favorite arc so far. In order to know something and be sure of it, you must be exposed to its opposite. We know heat because we have experienced the cold. We know up because we are aware of down. And Jaya was that for One Piece. At the center of it all was Bellamy the hyena. Small-minded, vain, dishonest and petty. And then you have the proper introduction of Blackbeard and his crew. The counter opposite, grandiose, cunning, patient, low-key and calculated. The way that Blackbeard's crewmates drop pure gems of wisdom whenever they have any sort of screen time both amazes me and makes me laugh. I mean, they spit some wisdom. Precisely, destiny always measures a person's worth. All things in this world are cogs that move in tune to strong desires. There's definitely something interesting to that crew, something that separates them from others. But anyway, back to Jaya. Sky Island is the Straw Hats' next destination. The Sky Island and the City of Gold. Both very mystical and mythical concepts, used to parallel this very concept of dreams in an indirect way. The sky represents the unknown, and funnily enough, as a result, infinite possibilities. On the other hand, the City of Gold represents abundance, prosperity and riches that you must again dare to believe in to reach. Both are dreams within a dream to the normal person. And I think this is where the series raises another interesting perspective on achieving something extraordinary. The same way infinite possibilities exist only under the context of uncertainty is the same way the act of achieving something great is a gamble. The extraordinary doesn't just sit around tapping everyone on the shoulder to make them aware of its existence. Since the extraordinary is by nature rare, the act of believing that you can pull something out of thin air that's never been seen before is half the battle. But in truth, it's not a complete gamble because we know that it's been done before. I mean, if we look at the world around us, every advancement you see is the result of a dream that became reality. And before that dream was actualized, someone must have had the courage to dream it, and naturally the majority probably laughed at it. And this is where the discrepancy between Bellamy and Luffy's camp comes to fruition. A ship fell from the sky and the log post is pointing upwards, but to Bellamy's camp the log post is broken and the ship that was tossed out of the sky was the result of a natural phenomenon. In his own words, he says, "Unusual currents in the Grand Line are being explained one after another. The ships that fell victim to this current are pushed up high in the sky and then slam into the ocean." Without knowing this, sailors from long ago saw the strange scene where the ships fell and imagined sky islands, thinking there must be another world in the sky. How foolish. All phenomena have reasons. These things that people dream about will all be explained soon. As we see here, they default to rational reasons that make sense to them, that exist within the realm of possibility of their own understanding. Because in order to see and open the door for something new, you must first admit that you don't know. And not knowing is scary, because it again falls into the category of uncertainty. And uncertainty robs you of your sense of control. Dreamers welcome uncertainty. They exist within this humility of admitting they don't know, and as a result are rewarded with the possibility of finding something beyond what they could imagine. And for them, instead of being scary, this is exciting. And it becomes clear why Luffy refused to retaliate after being attacked. Bellamy and his goons simply were too small-minded to be worth fighting. Bellamy's crew, on the other hand, couldn't be more proud of themselves. Luffy and Zoro are dragged out of the bar, and one of my favourite scenes unfolds. The only person who knew that Luffy and Zoro won the fight was Blackbeard. Why so angry, young lady? They're the ones who won the fight. The Sky Island exists. The new era they're talking about is crap. The era where pirates have dreams will be over, they say. Huh? People's dreams never end. Outdoing others isn't easy. They can go ahead and laugh at us. When you aim high, you sometimes come across fights not worth fighting. Straight goosebumps. This is definitely one of my favourite scenes in the whole series so far, and it's very clear that Blackbeard is a fellow dreamer. I hope you got what you were looking for when you clicked on this video. Be sure to comment below adding your thoughts to the discussion. The more people contribute their opinions, the deeper and richer the conversation. Everyone benefits more, including me, as ideas for future projects are often born through some of your comments. Thank you for watching again. Please show your support by smashing the like button and subscribing to the channel. Hope to see you here next time.